Well, there's more than a dose of cynicism in the Congress party reactions. Rajiv Shukla says this budget doesn't benefit the common man. Sachin Pilot, welcome. Rajiv Rudy, welcome. Mohammad Salim, welcome to the debate. And with us here in the panel, of course, Meghnad Desai, Omkar Goswami, Sunil Alagh, Rajiv Kumar and Sanjeev Sanyal. Ladies and gentlemen, all welcome. Navika Kumar is with us. We're just back from interviewing the finance minister. Rahul Gandhi says, Sachin Pilot, Rahul Gandhi says, the budget doesn't quicken the pulse but slows it down. Sonia Gandhi says, there is nothing new. They've taken our ideas and continued them, and there is nothing for the social sector. Now tell me, why do you feel it's lacking in ideas? Sachin Pilot, let's start with you.
I think the big question people are asking is, does this budget and today's presentation do justice to the quantum of majority that this BJP has got after the promises it made to the people of India? More importantly, the lack of what will this budget be remembered for? It has bits and pieces of small things, 50 crores here, 100 crores here. But I think the overarching the fundamental theme about the budget is missing. So it's probably just a please-all budget trying to do something for everybody. But I think the kind of elbow room this government has, unlike our government, which was straddled with allies, etc., we have a lot of maneuvering space was limited. I don't think that
Sachin, that it's a please-all budget. So you do think that he's tried to please a lot of people and has succeeded?
Okay, no, 1 second. I also put this proposition out right on top tonight that maybe Sachin Pilot is upset because the budget proves the Congress party's own pre-budget expectations wrong in more ways than one. After all, it was the Congress party which said that today's budget will be a budget of free market fundamentalists. Rajiv Rudy, I want you to open up the debate. From your side, you've heard the initial Congress reactions.
Well, I've been hearing my friends in the Congress party, the well-read friends in the Congress party talk about hundreds and hundreds being placed over each other. But unfortunately, I would say that if they talk about that in A scheme 100 crores and B scheme 100 crores, we have big ideas which have to be initiated. And whether we are talking about some friend of mine in the Congress party said they are just given 100 crores for the river linking projects. Unfortunately, they have not, most of them have either not been hearing the budget speech or they have been doing what the leaders have been doing in parliament. Because when they're talking about linking of rivers, we are talking about the starting of the program and having a DPR on how to go about in this country. When that is because this is a budget with a vision that we have looked at the middle class. We have given them financial some relief as far as PPF scheme is concerned, the ATC is concerned, and then we have proceeded piecewise to say that this is which are the areas which is focused. We have talked about infrastructure. We have focused on infrastructure. We have talked about rural development. We have talked about rural roads. We have talked about national highways, and we have talked about infrastructure. So that and the most important aspect of the entire budget is that where is the money? We had very little space to maneuver ourselves with 4.6 GDP coming down to 4.6. We need to create wealth in this nation. So we had to give the space for the entrepreneurship in this country to grow so that the nation goes on a progressive trend, and then we have enough money for the future to take up all these big schemes. So unfortunately, what we were given, what the legacy...
Rajiv Rudy, when you're in full flow, nobody, dare I say, even Narendra Modi can't stop you. But I'll stop you here because both of you have presented your points of view and here are the points of view. Congress party says there's nothing to be remembered for, there's no big idea, you borrowed our ideas, you're copycats kind of argument. The BJP says we had no leg room. I want the panel to come into this debate now. Now, I put a point of view. This morning, Sanjay Jha said of the Congress, this is a free market fundamentalist budget. That's what it's going to be. What happens instead? There's a fine balance. There's a continuation of subsidies, Meghnad Desai, right? There's tax relief for a significant proportion, Sunil Alagh, of the population, right? And Sanjeev, there is a greater push in infrastructure and manufacturing
for
as
employment.
well. So who's right and who's wrong? Let's open up to this side of the panel. Meghnad Desai.
There is continuity, maybe because of the limited room, with old policies. Subsidies have been kept, only mild tax concession, but there is change. There is change because there is a commitment to bring down
who's
the
wrong?
deficit.
You're saying Sachin Pilot is wrong. They've achieved the balance. Sunil Alagh.
No,
though you are a biased party.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, Sachin, look, I have also come, all the industry and the consumers they have looked after the Aam Aadmi better than anyone else. All the things which we discussed in the morning of infrastructure spending, it's not the Khas Aadmi who is going to lay the roads. It's not the Khas Aadmi who is going to work in the villages. The big change has come where Mr. Modi says, I don't want to give doles.
Yeah.
He's linked Manrega to agricultural activity.
Yeah.
Congress was just busy, let me give the money, I don't care where it comes from, as Sonia Gandhi said. Earning somebody else will do, spending I will do. He is wanting to move from wealth distribution to wealth creation.
This is what the Congress should have
That's
done.
the big change. That is the big change.
This is what the Congress should have done. This is what the Congress could have done. This is what the Congress did not do.
Only 44 seats.
Sanjeev Sanyal.
Understand that.
Now, Sachin is going to have to answer a lot.
Well,
because it appears to me tonight that Sachin Pilot is actually disappointed that the government continues to keep a focus on Manrega. It appears to me tonight that Sachin Pilot is also disappointed, terribly disappointed, that he can't go to town saying it's a free market fundamentalist budget that does not do any good for the poor people in this country. Is that the disappointment where the Congress party reaction is stemming from, Sanjeev?
I am disappointed,
I would argue,
because there is no mention of how to curb inflation. There is no information given to us how will you increase the tax base. There is no information what the road part will be to achieve 4.1% of deficit. Mentioning a few things is not going to solve anything.
I think there's a clear change in direction. Although I agree that it could have been much more aggressive, given that the mandate they had.
Okay.
But what is interesting to me is that the communication of this budget, because there's actually a lot of hidden things inside the budget which are actually quite aggressive, like the disinvestment plan. There's the infrastructure investment, which is quite aggressive, but it's been split up and announced in a fragmented way. So I'm quite surprised that it was not more aggressively presented as a roadmap, not only in terms of the measures themselves, but the communication of it was actually quite coy.
Well, who's disappointed, who's right and who's wrong between the two gentlemen who just spoke? Omkar.
So first and foremost, I think if you were to ask me, this budget, having looked at the numbers carefully, this budget has done much more than what its detractors are saying. And Sachin, if you will listen me out, I don't think you've actually looked at some of the numbers. For instance,
please tell me.
For national highways, 37,000 crores. It is, you know as well as I do, as anyone else, that highways are a huge employment generator. Okay, lots of people get work. 37,000 crores 1 year. For Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, 14,389 crores. I can continue with it, but I shan't.
Village roads.
Enough.
Yeah. Village roads.
That's the Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. So number one is that there has been enough in order to try and get employment back, which has been lost over the last 7 years. Number two is the amount that us who would be called economic fundamentalists would have liked to tighten subsidies. It has not happened. He has actually walked a pretty good political line in terms of what he can cut and what he won't.
Okay.
And he's kept his subsidy cuts. In fact, he hasn't cut subsidies. Frankly speaking, the amounts have gone.
That's the point.
The amounts have gone.
So that's the point. No, that's the point.
His assumption on taxes, I'll just finish, Rajiv. Yeah. His assumption on tax increase is exactly equal to the assumption of GDP growth. He assumes in money terms, GDP will grow by 13%, tax will also go up by 13%.
The point, therefore, is I'm looking at the issue of criticism. I am looking at the Congress party criticism.
I have one criticism, which is it is a terribly badly drafted budget.
Fine.
I would, as
that's a matter of detail.
As a finance minister, I would actually chuck out the guys who drafted the paragraph.
Omkar Goswami, I take your point. Let's go back to the debate where we were right now. Congress party says doesn't benefit common man.
It does.
Congress party says slows down the pulse of the economy. Congress party says continues our schemes. Now, we need to settle this debate once and for all here, Rajiv and Navika.
He had a very tough act to perform because he had three clear objectives: fiscal consolidation, promoting growth, accelerating growth, and continuing with inclusion. Because he knows that he's going to be chastised as a pro-rich, pro-capitalist people, so he had to make sure that he also gave enough for inclusion. I think what he's been able to do is to actually come out rather well here on, in balancing these three objectives. Now, in balancing the three objectives, he's clearly going to disappoint any one of those three stakeholders who either wanted only inclusion or only growth or just fiscal consolidation.
So
But he's been able to do
snatched
that.
the Congress party's argument away because he's actually retained the 115,000 crore allocation for food security that was mentioned in the interim budget. He hasn't touched any of those numbers.
He could have done the same balancing act while not adopting his predecessor's target for fiscal deficit as for down the right for 3 years and his growth and revenue growth target.
So Navika, what would you say to Sachin Pilot? Would you say that there is honestly no consistency in their criticism so far? Should we therefore challenge Sachin Pilot on the specifics on what precisely?
Absolutely.
Where precisely this budget has proved him wrong and slowed down the pulse of the
My question to Sachin Pilot is, he's talking about the problems of inflation not being addressed in the budget. Which budget of Finance Minister P. Chidambaram addressed the problem of inflation in the budget? You fought with it for 4 years. You couldn't do anything as far as inflation is concerned. As far as giving more money to people, at least Arun Jaitley has tried to give more money to people by cutting taxes. He's given more incentives for saving taxes, for PPF, for ATC. He's raised the exemption limit. So at least he's countering the inflation with tax exemptions.
Sachin is an educated
all
man.
these points
I would like
that
him
you're
to
pointing
put
out,
facts,
tax exemptions,
critique
increasing
with
the slabs,
facts,
etc., will be negated with the 9-8% inflation. It'll come to a naught. My short point to you, Navika, is that when I say that
At
there
least
is
it's
no
a
direction,
not. He's tackled inflation.
Well, let him come. Let him. He must have his say. What's it? Let him speak. Yeah. Let him have his initial say. I'm going to come back to you. You will respond to it.
Price stabilization fund of 500 crores. What objective will you achieve by establishing that fund? One. B, you say that we did nothing, and we did nothing, we got voted out. Forget about us. Today is your government, the BJP and Mr. Modi. My question to you is that if you have been campaigning on this issue of price rise and runaway inflation, what is that you have done today in the last 40 days of being in government? And this excuse of being so little time in government is not the right answer, because every government comes and only has 30-40 days to make a budget. You have to give a direction. You have to show a commitment in your speech and in your budget document that I am a government that is going to curb inflation. I didn't get that.
This is very generic. I mean,
this is very supremely generic. I mean, it's very unlike you, Sachin, to be so supremely generic. You formulated ideas during initiating the national manufacturing policy.
Fund?
What did you? No,
how is this fund? How is this fund going to help reduce inflation?
No. Let me ask you. This budget, for example, on manufacturing, it has a clear and comprehensive roadmap to revive manufacturing. What did you do for 8 years or 9 years? Anyway, let Rajiv Rudy respond if he wants to you on any of these. Yeah, Rajiv.
Well, I would not say that we have attempted to give a populist budget. We have given a rational budget and a pragmatic budget, and we have set a roadmap for the future. And we we have not promised heavens in just a fortnight. What we are trying to show is that infrastructure is important, reforms is important, creating assets is important, creating wealth is important, and then we have to see various sectors in the economy. Manufacturing is important, and then small incentives have been given, trying to focus on small areas where we see a lot of prospects. Now, if we talk about river linking of projects, that's an ambitious scheme which will completely change the face of irrigation across the country. Still, we have so many aspects. When you're talking about a middle class, we have given them some concessions, whether ATC or the PPF fund. We have brought back the national savings, the Kisan Vikas, but we have drawn a combination of things, whether it's towards industry, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's sports, whether it's rural development. We have tried to see that whatever is best for the nation, and of course, we have come back with a debate that doles, no doles. We have to create assets, we have to make people stand on their feet, we have to make them self-reliant, and at the same time establish a track or a trajectory of growth in this country. What we are talking is non-populist, what we are talking is practical things, and of course there are certain experiment areas where we have to move. When we are talking about big investments, we are talking about FDI, we are talking about insurance, we are talking about defense. So overall we have created a picture. We are not being trying to woo voters. What we are trying to say is what's good for the country. Let's work ahead with it.
Has the left also lost? Has the left been left without any arguments? For example, Mohammed Salim. There's a cross section of people who are beneficiaries of all the projects, especially the poor. I can mention at least 21. There are no cutbacks in subsidies barring fuel. There is a relief for the common man in several 5 or 6, 7 schemes. There is an affirmation that the poor will not lose out when subsidies are recast. There are steps to tackle inflation. what? No. So would you,
What's new in
despite
it?
all your,
What's
your
new in it
standard
for last 25
political-
years?
Pardon me?
What's new in it? For last 24 years, we are listening to the same kind of speeches from the budget and same kind of comments from the experts that everything is going to benefit the poor, and there is nothing new, no departure.
No,
now
are you unhappy that
you
social,
see the allocation
social
for the
sectors
chemical
have
and
not
fertilizer.
witnessed a cut?
You see the
And I
chemical
don't
and
understand your
fertilizer.
argument.
What
No,
about
you
the
have-
allocation?
No, you
What
kept
about
saying.
you talk about fuel. What about the fertilizer subsidy? You see the allocation for the chemical and fertilizer.
It's not been touched.
The
It's not been
fertilizer
touched.
subsidy
Yes, it's decreased.
allocation.
No, it's not been decreased.
It
It's
has
not been
increased.
decreased.
In
It
the
has
plan
been
outlay, you
increased.
say
3,000 crores.
allocation
It
to
has-
chemical and fertilizer.
No.
It is 73,000 crores.
Please see
So
your
urea
numbers.
for NPK and for indigenous fertilizers, there is 73,000 crore in the budget provisions that have been left
You see the
only
plan
for
outlay.
fertilizer
You see the
subsidy.
plan outlay.
Plan outlay has been increased compared to the last year.
Only other way.
27%.
You know, each
Okay,
number,
other-
each
No, once
number
again,
you're saying
okay.
you're wrong because you haven't looked at the numbers.
Plan expenditure has been
You
increased by
see the
27%.
you see the
No,
budget
no, look at the
you
numbers
see the
for
plan
Christ's
outlay,
sake
you
before
see
you
for central
argue.
government departments and ministries.
Sir, I'm going by
But
the
how-
facts out here.
but
There are
my
8,000
point is-
crores.
no, my point is-
8,000 crores for allocation for rural housing. All these programs, the cross-section of beneficiaries are the poor. I am asking tonight, has the opposition run out of arguments?
course.
Because if you have Sachin Pilot and Mohammad Salim, you should say so tonight. You can say we have no arguments left.
No,
Let's concede the
not allowed
point.
I think
to comment.
Sachin
You have not
Pilot is
listened.
trying to
You
think
want
of
to-
No, rural credit has
Mr.
gone on
Salim is saying
from 5 lakh
the
crores
same
to 8
old
lakh
things
crores.
I have heard for 30 years, and nowadays they say it with less and less facts.
You know,
at their
I
disposal.
think what is happening is the opposition has decided even before the budget started that we have to say this. They haven't read the figures. They're continuing to say the same things.
At
And
least
when they
look
get
at
the
the
figures, they're going to get
Big
shocked.
publication exercise.
How are you
Please
going
read the
against
figures.
How are you going
Please
against
allow me.
facts?
Yes,
you are
okay,
commenting
go ahead.
on my
No,
comment
no,
without
what-
allowing me to. And don't have the presence. It's a diamond-studded budget. I know. You must appreciate that. And secondly,
the
it's a
figures,
Ganga what we
read.
also speak
We are
on
questioning
diamond
you on the
study. Look,
figures
the
of facts.
figures.
One
It's
not a
the
number.
same old Kinara shop.
Oh,
It's
God.
same old
come
Kinara
on,
shop.
all
It's the
my
same old
people.
line for this
Can you
for last
people
24
ever change
years,
your
and there is no
language?
departure.
Can you at least
Even
learn
UPA
to
could
look
have
at
done
numbers?
this. UPA 3, even Chidambaram would have done this. Where is the promises
So I've,
made?
here's
Where
the
is the
theorem.
unearthing of black
Looking
money?
at numbers
Now,
and
you talk about
critiquing
on
in
the
terms of
election
numbers
campaign,
is capitalism.
In the run-up for
Yeah,
the election
correct.
campaign,
Gentlemen,
you talk
gentlemen,
about
I'm gonna
black
take a-
money. Where is the issue addressed?
I mean,
Where is the issue addressed? It's a 500
I am
crore
going
rupees
to take
for
a
price
short break.
stabilization. It's okay.
When I come out of the break, my question to Sachin Pilot will be, rather I would request Sachin Pilot to reflect and give me two specific problems areas in this budget. Let him give two specific, pull it out. Let it be the
facts.
direct taxes, indirect taxes, housing loans, IT exemption, subsidies. Let Sachin Pilot give us two specific points that he has a problem with. We'll debate that. As of now, it appears whether or not it's a big idea budget, we don't know. But the opposition is not being able to get exact with us tonight on what their problem is with a budget which Rahul Gandhi says will bring the pulse of the economy down.